This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
He's on.
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. Dead or alive, you are coming with me. You are under arrest. Take it over, creep. Come quietly or there will be trouble. You may want to call the fire department. Call for backup.
How may I help you, officer?
By resisting arrest.
Robocop, prime directive number 2. Protect the innocent.
Hey, robot, you are under arrest.
The future of law enforcement is here. Robocop, the series.
Monday at 9 on Fox 24.
Dead or alive, you're coming to the boardroom meeting with us. We're in for a gory, fun time. That is for sure. How is everybody?
Doing good.
Fantastic.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh! Should we say damn-tastic? Angry fanboys, leave! Fun fact, one of my stuntman buddies, Lance Eakwright, is actually friends with William Shockley, who is, as the example in the boardroom meeting who gets gunned down by the Ed 209, but it took a while for people to recognize him because they cut out so much of his death scene, unless you watch the uncut version.
Well, I saw him getting shot up in the documentary not too long ago.
Yeah, he appears later in Verhoeven's Showgirls as, and this time he accidentally hurt the actress when he had to fake the punch. That scarred her for life. Ugh. Verhoeven, man. I've been having fun looking at his earlier cinema because the right people get it, but man, there's just so many people who's just like, dude.
Have you seen anything he did before the American films?
Yes. Oh, yeah. A lot of his
I haven't
earlier...
seen any of those, yeah.
Do you remember the Evil Colonel, The Living Daylights, the James Bond movie?
Vaguely, yeah.
He's also the main bad guy working with the one-armed man in the Fugitive movie version and Jerome Crabbe. But yeah, he's a Dutch actor, and he and Rutger Hauer got their start with Verhoeven, and Jan de Bont, who later became a director in Hollywood after working for McTiernan and Schumacher, directed blockbusters like the Speed movies and Twister. So Verhoeven, in many ways, like, it was always a big collaborative effort, but it's so funny. Like, apparently he's just so good at just mirroring tragedy with some amusing insight and other off-color characters, everything from kingdoms to sports racers and everything. And I think the reason it just works better in his native language is he's good at getting people to leave him alone there versus in Hollywood where they're like, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. And he's like, duly noted,
Well, he likes to bring in the media and politics into his movies, like RoboCop and Starship Troopers. He does.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah.
It's so ironic how when RoboCop became a comic book later on, how it still took him a while to follow suit and carry on some of Ed Numenar and Verhoeven's satirical moments. First, they would try and recreate what Frank Miller had originally intended in the sequels before they chopped down his ideas. And then they added some other fun stuff that was like, man, that would have been a good movie had they actually made it. And
did Frank Miller write anything in the third one? I know he did the second one.
Yeah, he wrote some of the third one, but we'll get into it later, but I mean, it's kind of interesting how RoboCop is one that you can go so many tones with, and the basic people kind of just know it as, oh yeah, cool movie,
Yeah.
good drama. And people like us who've seen movies like this a million times are like, oh yeah, but how funny how it's a total cyberpunk movie and it's making fun of this, unethical corporation, and
Mhm.
it's making
Yeah,
fun of cop movies.
Yeah, OCP is not a good place to work for.
Yeah. They say something off color when the example dies. They're like, "Oh, look at the mess you made," or something like that. And then no regard for the fact that they took his life and just about killed half the boardroom. They're just like, okay.
And that's why the villain in Lethal Weapon 2 put down plastic on the floor.
I love it. That dude who was also in Aliens and Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, he just comes on in. He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna pay me, right?" And they're like, "In blood." It's just they shoot him dead, and they're like, "Get the body back out here." It's like,
How did I was just gonna say, how did you see the first RoboCop movie?
I did see them modified on TV, but I was at the right time and place in the 2000s where we still knew the bigger picture and we would still watch clips growing up, and it wasn't a hard to modify movie, unlike so many others. Like, for instance, I love the 48 Hours movies, but not growing up because I couldn't understand a fucking thing they were saying. This is like, I'm waiting for Eddie Murphy to be funny. I've seen him be funny.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater when it came out. I was working. I had just graduated high school in '86, but I stayed at my part-time job and became a full-time job for a year at Village Inn.
Oh, wow.
And after I got off work one day, me and another coworker went and saw it.
How
saw
many
it in the
kids
theater.
would you reckon were in the audience? Because that's the other thing I love hearing about too. Kids who were ages like 8 to 14 saw it. And
Well, I was 19. My coworker
right. Yeah,
was probably
you were
17. Yeah.
But that's what I love, is just hearing how people will almost always say, like, movies like that, the first two Lethal Weapons and Die Hards, people would just take their kids to. Like, they somehow were okay with it because even though there was partial nudity and lots of profanity in every scene, I guess people just were okay with it because it wasn't about a gangster or too over violent or sexual. It was just that kind of, they just dug the characters so much. It was one of those, just like, just look the other way just this once. It was like Monty Python. You're like, it's okay, kids, just come on in. It wasn't like South Park where you're like, oh my god, can't be watching that.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember it in the theater because I might be my perception of it might be colored of more recent watchings or something where they might have added some stuff back into it. But I remember it being fairly violent in the theater.
Yeah, no, it was violent, but it just seemed like no one cared because it was just a good movie is what I'm getting at. Like, I would always encounter people who, even on forums, who were like, that was one of my first R-rated movies and I was only 10. I'm like, interesting. The Batman crowd.
And to that point, I think the reason why parents were okay with it was because it was so over the top from the very beginning.
Yes.
It truly deadened the rest of the audience to just how violent it was, because it was always being couched in this kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. Like the aforementioned, I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
That kind of subverted the violent end of it and made it okay.
It made it satirical.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, I'm glad you guys touched on that, because like, this is another movie where you see other movies where people are laughing at over the top stuff and you wonder if they're psychos or desensitized. If people laugh at movies like this, they legit, like, they've seen it many times, they know the lines before the characters say it. And I've seen people even laugh at Murphy's death because it is so over the top. And I get it, because it is an otherwise satire movie versus, you're not gonna laugh at a Holocaust drama, for instance. It's just like, this is a movie where it's like, you get how over the top it is, and in between the human who becomes a cyborg who learns to become human again, you still get just so many other layers. Like, he's good at overriding his programming. It's like, you can't shoot the bad guy. It's like, well, the bad guy happens to be one of the crooked executives. What do I do? And it is a total Batman plot. How lovely that. I mean, it's a politician plot practically. Just, don't you just love how a bunch of just thugs in the city who happen to be louder than the other ones are the ones doing the corporation's evil deeds. Like, they're still in technology for them, and their sentence reduced and other stuff like that. And you're like, my word. And all the actors who played the bad guys, even the Death Sergeant, they've gone on to have awesome careers and guest star on every other movie and show, and they still do conventions. And going back to the Robodoc that you mentioned, Gil, yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing too. Is just much like James Cameron is now coming out with an Aliens documentary. Is like people still want to know more. At the end of the day, there's still plenty of material that hasn't been touched yet.
Yeah, I just, for me, I guess my appeal for me was for the fact that it was sort of a comic book movie without ever having been a comic book.
Right. And they do expand on it really good in the comics. I can't wait to get through more of those because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Well,
there's even one
read,
for the reboot. Yeah.
I read the film adaptation issues.
Oh.
And then I read Robocop and Terminator, so that's basically all I've read for Robocop. But
the first one is really awesome. Like, Miller did it so much justice. The Kill Human one they did in 2011, I could have done without, because while the artwork was stunning, the ending was really, really sucky. Like, really, that was the best ending you could come up with. But it is ironic when you get there how Robo travels in time before Dick Jones gets corrupted and uses his Z209s to take on the T1000. But where they end it, let me just say, it's going to anger you. So if you're going to read it, definitely don't spend $1 on it.
Well, and then,
it is one of those, you're like, I enjoyed getting there until those last 5 pages. Dude, what the hell?
Yeah, well, the first movie, I mean, even the people that were in it, Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Bodiger.
It got him so many gigs.
Chewing the scenery, that 70s dad. Ronnie Cox.
Yes.
And even Miguel Ferrer.
I always would forget Miguel was in it growing up, and then it was like, oh yeah, that's right. He's the one patsy who, is on cocaine.
Yeah. Well, he's that guy you just love to hate because he was just such a dick.
Yeah.
In that movie. He played it up real well.
I love how the cops are all hardened, but then they become softened up to him. It's like, see, he's not just a piece of machinery or a poster boy. And how wild how, they see how he retrieves data, and they're like, he's not just like any of these other guys. He's being used as a product, but Murphy's slowly returning. And so I think that's just it. Like, it's a good satire, but it is a good original comic book story. It's like, he's going to regain his humanity at the end of the movie. That's the other thing. People are okay with the over-the-top deaths because it's always involving the villains. And it's like, yeah, I really hate them, so I am cool with them getting run over or blown the hell up. And
or getting
I'll give them
toxic, or getting toxic waste dumped on them.
Yeah, toxic waste, yeah.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Robocop. The future has a new attitude.
Technology is your friend.
Crime has a new look.
You're boned, baby.
And the most unstoppable crime fighter in the universe.
You may want to fasten your seatbelt.
Is back.
All systems functioning.
But now, he's got company.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
And the city will never be the same.
I thought you said this guy was friendly.
Robocop Prime Directives, featuring 4 hot new titles. Dark Justice, Meltdown, Resurrection, Crash and Burn.
I'm the first of my kind. Half man, half machine.
This is the future of American justice. Robocop is here.
Robocop, rated PG-13.
Thinking back on it, it kind of reminded me of the violence from Jeffries 2000.
Yes, indeed.
The violence in that was just so over the top, and it became part of the story, kind of like it did with Robocop. But I think it just added to it and added to that element of it.
1,000%.
Now you're just making me realize, I'm still thinking about Death Race 2000 to this day. Every time, we see people crossing the street or something, I'll say 50 points.
It's we've always had kind of a dystopian or post-apocalyptic kind of action sci-fi thing. My mother was wearing some blinking red necklace for Halloween, and I was like, I don't know why, that just looks like an explosive color from something like Wedlock or Running Man. And she's like, you watch too many movies. I'm like, I know. I have rewatched the sequels even months before we were prepping for this one. There is some good in them. I see why any of them have a fan. Like, okay, so part 2 is not as good with the satire, but it's an okay R-rated action flick.
It's I actually like Robocop 2, probably because it was written by Frank Miller, at least partly.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me, but it is absolutely watchable. Robocane was a fun villain. It was just one of those, I loved it more growing up. I was more attuned to the effects epics, and it's so funny. I saw part 3 around that same time, and I was like, okay, so it doesn't hold up now because it's a kid's movie, but I'm not gonna lie, having Robocop with giant guns and a flamethrower and a jetpack is pretty cool for the kid.
Well, I don't know. I remember what Robocop 3. In fact, I haven't watched it since the first time I watched it. It was
no, don't get me wrong. It's a cluster, and I think the reason Fred Decker wasn't impacted by it, the collaborator with Shane Black, in the Monster Squad, is because they didn't give him much to work with except just make a fun movie. But I like the idea of just like a resistance fighter team that's labeled as terrorists by the OCP corporation, and Robo has to help them. It's just, its main issues were, it felt like an underdeveloped kind of Outer Limits episode half the time, because like you see half the cast are carrying Robo. I'm like, he's made of metal.
Did anybody recognize the kid villain in that second movie?
Yeah, he's from that one Star Trek Next Gen episode
where he's trying to be a Klingon type,
and
because his mom
since
died.
I saw it on TV growing up, I never knew he had a motor mouth, and it's like, oh man, when you watch it uncut, he is annoying. And then you don't know how you feel when Robocane, kills his son, and you're like, well, not sure how to feel. He's bad, but he's still a kid. The hell?
I haven't rewatched Robocop 3, but I rewatched. I was pretty familiar with Robocop, so I didn't rewatch that one. But I watched Robocop 2. Then I watched the remake in 2014.
Oh,
yeah.
I bought the television series, which only had one season, and I've watched 5 episodes so far of it. And then I
think
also
saw it on YouTube a few years back, and it was one of those, even before they released the riff tracks, I was like, see, again, I would have loved it as a teen, but now I'm like, okay, so it's...
Well, it kind of reminds me of... did you ever see Black Scorpion?
Oh, yes.
There was the 2 movies. They were Roger Corman movies.
Yes.
And then they did a TV series, and it kind of feels like that. It wasn't very good.
Right. Opinion. It wasn't good, but you can understand why someone who likes campy comic books would have had nostalgia for it. It's kind of a so bad it's good show, kind of, in a way, because like, I guess if you are an adult but you want to introduce your kid to Robocop, but they don't want to see just a lame kids movie part 3, then you watch the show because it's at least like a bland homicide Law and Order knockoff, but with Robocop solving a crime each week. And
but they also had a cartoon series.
Yes, they did. So which one? Like the Commando one from 98 or the earlier?
Probably the earlier one.
The earlier one.
Nice.
I never watched that myself. Did you, Tom?
I've caught episodes here and there, but if you're going to introduce anybody to RoboCop and you don't want to go to the quote unquote normal door, that's a good place as any to start.
Was it told well enough, or was it like very watered down for children?
Oh, it was very watered down. It was akin to the Rambo cartoon, Chuck Norris Karate Commandos.
So it was like the A-Team approach,
right?
People wouldn't die in these things.
They're not gonna get blown up, but still, no. But hey, no. Again, to your point, is like, hey, it was well animated. It was just one of those kind of like the Ghostbusters. It took a while for people to kind of get into them because they were at awkward times. I did get a great interview with Paul Lynch that I noticed on one of the Blu-ray sites that you know him from movies like Prom Night, doing some HBO action movies, and directing a bunch of Star Trek Next Gen and DS9. And he directed some of the Robocop 90s show, and he noted how at that time Canada was becoming a bigger TV production company, but just because they were cheap doesn't mean they wanted all the work, to be cheap. And he wasn't ever surprised when anyone who worked on this would be asked, hey, do you want to do a TV tie-in to a popular movie that came out a few years back? It was kind of becoming the norm. So I do think it's interesting how Robocop makes fun of marketing, and yet the marketing team clearly wasn't in on the joke, for all his movies and where he later goes.
Bringing up Canada,
Canada.
I mean, back before Stargate,
yes,
SG-1, a lot of the films filmed in Canada looked like they were made by Roger Corman production company.
They really did. They were
they was all they were all dark and a lot of neon and wet streets kind of stuff in their shots. And
no, absolutely. And unfortunately, people are very snobby. They'll make fun of, hey, that's the one popular, Vancouver building, pretend to be New York. And it's like, then you see other shows, like Stargate and Highlander, that do a good job. And X-Files, I've been fortunate enough to talk to people who have interviewed a lot of the crew, and believe it or not, that show came in on time, especially when the stars couldn't film every episode. But
well, that's when the look started to change with SG-1 and then into X-Files. And,
But I did rewatch Prime Directives also this year. Way better than I recall.
I just rewatched the whole thing yesterday while I was working. Well,
it was one of those.
I shouldn't say I watched it. I listened to it, but
but either way, like it would make a decent audio drama. But it was one of those where I was kind of meh when I saw it, because its production value does vary and it is a little over edited. Don't get me wrong. The main actor, Paige Fletcher, who was on the Hitchhiker show that USA Network and HBO syndicated, I thought he did a good job as Murphy. It's just, I think the main issue people were hard on it is the makeup they used when he's unmasking himself. It just doesn't look like Peter Weller, unlike, Robert John Burke and the other guy from the 90s show who was on Santa Barbara.
It's also the one where they put Robocop against Robocop.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually why I dug it. It's just Maurice Dean Wint, who's been on a lot of other Canadian shows. You know him as Tank from Captain Power and as the bad guy.
I was actually watching the Robocop TV series today. And he was in that guy who plays Cable in that miniseries was actually in an episode playing some sort of crook pirate kind of character almost.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's an underrated actor. He was in the first Cube movie, terrorizing the main crew, and I think that's just it. Like, where the plot line goes is pretty good, but it is stuck in between kind of the 90s show and an above average comic book movie. There's a lot of other actors who, if you look up their credits, it's like various episodes of Outer Limits, 24, and Suits, and they were fun. It was just, I think just by the time that actually came out, I missed it totally, but I wanted to see it because it was kind of more faithful to the first movie, but it just kind of came and went. And it wasn't too violent despite the R rating, but it was still pretty edgy for cable TV. And I knew Robocop was slowly kind of becoming a thing again, because at one of my local malls, which unfortunately got rebranded so many times, I saw some Robocop action figures, but it was from the Prime Directives miniseries. So I'm like, whoa.
When did that Prime Directives miniseries come out? It was early 2000s.
Yeah, 2001. And and so a year later, the McFarlane Movie Maniacs toys were a thing. So I always got a sense of kind of what was big based on, the merchandise. And Robocop just always kind of had that, which is ironic because it's making fun of toys and everything. But we can't help it. We just want to be like the character, even though he's making fun of corporate America.
And the funniest thing for me was that one of the episodes of the series that I caught was basically, it was kind of like Robocop at Christmas.
I think I know. I think I know the one.
It was so dumb to me at the time, and now I look back and it's like, it's still dumb, but damn, it was. That's what you get away with.
They added a precocious little kid to the show.
Yeah,
and they called her Gadget.
Gadget. So there you go. It was Inspector Gadget, but for teens. Yeah. But I know what you mean. It was kind of one of those. Is like, I like the premise. It's just the execution is kind of wonky. The action was okay. I didn't mind the lack of blood. because there was still occasionally a fun fight scene or explosion, but at the same time, like you're saying, you kind of had to separate yourself. I'm like, okay. So this isn't what RoboCop should be, but I'm okay that compared to other franchises, which they just shit on, I'm like, okay, so this is for teens and 10 plus crowd. Okay, cool.
I haven't watched every episode yet, of course, but it seemed to me like they were trying to give him a rogues gallery of villains, because at least in the first few episodes, they bring up, I think they call him Pudface Wilson or something like that, and he's basically the guy who got that radioactive waste dumped all over him, although it just messed up his face apparently.
Yeah,
in the TV series.
It had that weird mojo where they're like, how gritty do we get without getting gruesome? How mysterious do we go without being another X-Files knockoff? And how do we make these villains be over the top and supernatural? And of course, I think that was what backfired the most. They were trying to not be too silly, but they just couldn't help it. It's like, on paper, that sounds silly.
I saw Pudface and I thought, oh, he seems like a Dick Tracy villain to me.
That's just it. So, I mean, the comics, I definitely think, did him more justice and have kept the spirit alive. I do recommend Prime Directives, though. I think.
Well, the guy that plays his grown-up son, he's in Dark Matters, if you know that TV series.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, I dug that show. I was actually fortunate enough to interview the Stargate guy who created Dark Matter, and it's kind of a shame that, like many of these guys who have done these shows, when people ask them, do you want to return? They're like, once they get the cancellation order, they move on to something else. And it's like, no, there's still more. But I think there will always be a market for Robocop. Like the new video game, everyone was pretty stoked for. Every podcast I've heard talk about it has really dug it. It helped that Peter Weller returned to voice the character as opposed to just in a spoof or in the Mortal Kombat games. Like, it's kind of a more faithful sequel again. So that's kind of what's interesting about the comics is sometimes they acknowledge parts 2 and 3, and other times they just acknowledge the first one. But it is a loose enough storyline to where you can, yes, do a mixture of future cop action mixed with gory neo-noir, and then, yeah, but for whatever reason, yes, the gallery of villains almost always comes across as kind of Batman-esque, where they're employees who've been ripped off by Omnicorp or other super soldier militia groups, super thieves, who are stealing technology. It's always kind of that. And I guess the first movie, just not a knock on it at all, it just raised the bar so high. It's just like, it's more than just nostalgia at this point. It's just like, yeah, that you couldn't make that today. There'd be too many arguments over how violent or the effects get, but no one would be getting the satirical nature of it.
Yeah. Well, with RoboCop in 2014, I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but I watched the second viewing, I liked it better. But it was a PG-13 rating, which already was like, but this is RoboCop. It should be rated R.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I think it's somewhat underrated because it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm not trying to step on any feathers because trust me, I have plenty of friends who are like, I hate that movie. I hate the movie. And for me, unlike like say something forgettable like the Poltergeist rehash or
the 14 millionth Medea movie.
Oh, Lord, Tyler Perry wrecks it for us all. How about every other Amityville knockoff? And don't get me started on Gus Van Sant wanting to redo every other scene in Psycho for no reason. But like with this one, I'm like, okay, so they're doing their own thing. I like how it was a bunch of crooked cops who work for the corporation. Michael Keaton was having fun being over the top. My sister and I actually saw that in theaters, and I still own the Blu-ray. So for me, it was kind of more like 2012's Dread, where it's like, okay, just lean harder. I liked how they were using the Omnicorp at 209 equivalents on the street, kind of policing, if you will. And it's
right.
Like, it was kind of an allusion to like the drone strikes that were happening, overseas. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we got a more present day stuff. As Sam Jackson as a Fox News type propaganda machine was kind of amusing because you were waiting for him to let out an F-bomb. And I love how he's got all these governors who have sponsored the corporation on the phone or who are against it. And he doesn't let the guy who's against it talk. So I'm like, see, that I like how you're making fun of cable TV news being manipulative.
Yeah. Plus, anything that gives Gary Oldman a paycheck, I'm all for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had
good.
great actors in it. Gary Oldman,
you actually got the scientist
Samuel
mind,
Jackson.
and to see inside Robo, that's what did it for me. I'm like, okay, so the only homage they're doing, it's not like Abrams where everything is lifted from a better movie. It's like, okay, so all they're doing is just doing an awesome rendition of the classic theme song. Like, that's it. But other than that, it's still going a different way. I know some people didn't like Joel Kinnaman in the role. I've liked him in Altered Carbon and some other shows, but I think that's just it. He's better known for TV versus movies.
I think the problem most people probably must, if they had a problem with it, and maybe I did it the first time I watched it, was
the rating.
Well, the rating, but Joe Kinnaman's character, when he becomes Robocop, he still sounds like a person when he's talking. He doesn't sound robotic in any way.
That's a good point. I do feel like,
and it was driving me crazy the first time I watched the movie, where he's got his lungs and his head and brain and everything, and his hand, which doesn't look like it's connected to anything. They kept his hand, and I'm like, why are they doing that? And how does that even work with it not even being attached to him somehow?
Oh, I forgot about that.
But the reason is because it helped him make a more emotional connection to be able to touch his child,
have an actual hand
with an actual hand.
So it was a plot convenience. But no, that's a good point. And the director fought several times with MGM and Sony for an R rating, and they would not give it to him. But that's the other thing too. I saw people trying to blacklist the guy. I'm like, no. This dude has done a lot of awesome, like, Brazilian, action crime movies. Like, if you've seen the Elite Squad movies, the dude he's like a typical foreign filmmaker. When they come over here, Hollywood likes to pick on the guys and treat them like John Woo. And it's like, well, there's a reason they go back overseas, because
they want to be able to push him around, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they take advantage of the guy and they get away with it because their name isn't Scorsese or Spielberg. And I'm like, that's not cool. I shouldn't have to be an elite for you to not pick on me.
Yeah, for me, the updated RoboCop was still a good movie, but the thing that one thing I purposely did was I didn't try to think about the one that I grew up with, and that helped make the transition a lot better when I saw it, and it truly did go in a completely different direction. It wasn't over the top. It didn't have that element of satire. It didn't have the tongue-in-cheek humor. But it truly was faithful to the core material to a point.
Yes.
But it didn't. But it took it off into a different direction. The best way I can describe it is like comparing the original Prisoner from overseas,
2009 AMC. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, both were okay. I mean, but if you grew up with the one and you saw the second one, you could see similar elements, but there was just enough different that it could rub you the wrong way,
right?
And that helped, and that would hurt your enjoyment of the update. So that.
And they even used the color of the outfit as a way of, because they made him sleek black at first.
That's true.
Right. And then when he was becoming more human, he was more like the silver look.
I think the reason I just gave it a shot, despite being a diehard fan of the original movie, just like, let alone went into the theater, I was like, okay, so they don't have a music video hack or someone known only for mindless stuff. So they're not going into this mindless, because trust me, they had wanted to remake it for a while. And I remember reading, I kid you not, like in 2004, it's like, Rob Cohen, of Triple X, fame, was going to redo it, and Wentworth Miller, I think this is back when Prison Break was first becoming a thing, was going to be the lead, and I'm like, that just doesn't sound very inspired at all, And I think it helped that they still drew from the original script, but like you said, they had awareness. It was like, we can't ever be like the original, so let's just do something different instead of beat for beat. I mean, they actually face off with the villain on top of the building instead of in the boardroom. So I think that was fun for me because Keaton, even though he was chewing scenery and might not have taken the role all that special, I think I was still having fun seeing him in that because this was kind of when he was just doing more tough guy roles again. And he still was at least making the character be measured. It was like, okay, well, let me try out this gadget on you. Okay, I got 5 other gadgets I'm going to try on you. You're disposable to me.
Well, talking about gadgets, and he's using things like tasers and stuff, which is, you kind of think, well, why didn't they ever design that with the Robocops from before?
Right. So to your point, I think both you guys' point, I think I look at it as the Jaws Piranha connection. Like Piranha goes where Jaws doesn't go, but is in some ways kind of influenced by the Jaws novel, but in a way that kind of like how I rank every other Roger Corman, B movie, is like, if you're going to go in a way where it be something more than just a fun cash grab, at least explore an idea that wasn't explored in the original movie and then have trashy fun. Although in this case, minus the trashiness. And that's all I can really ask for, instead of remake the same damn thing and make me wonder, why did you even bother? They thought about doing a sequel to that, and I think it could have improved. And I knew some other people who were keen on it.
To the 2014 movie?
Yeah. But so the best anyone's going to get is there was a prequel comic book like series for a bit in 2013 to 2014 that ran, and I think that's just it. Like, there's always love for any version of RoboCop at this point, and the toys were awesome. There was like a company that was based in Hawaii that, I kid you not, I used to browse action figure sites galore nonstop. I loved it to the point where my father said, "Are you going to stop playing with your dolls, son?" I saw so many different kinds of RoboCop toys that, even though some of them were claiming to be inspired mainly by the first movie, they would still have his giant, elephant gun from part 2, car, as well as the part 3's, flamethrower. Like, you could switch out his hand with a flamethrower hand and then attach it to his jetpack. I'm like, see, that's just it. Like, and I think that's also what works so well in the Versus Terminator comic, is he's using literally all of that technology that he uses in the sequel. But again, like, you want to talk exploring unused ideas, but better, it's like, see, and I think it made sense for Omnicorp to be a Skynet type company, because you kind of get that gist. And it is so funny how MGM kind of marketed it similarly at the time, but they took it way more serious than they did the original Terminator, which was just, they thought it was just going to be a sci-fi based slasher. And, it did bigger business and had a bigger reception, despite some critics being lukewarm on it. But I think it also helped that Ed Numenar and Mike Miner were fans of Blade Runner. And so that's just it. Like, they were able to explore what makes any good cyberpunk story worthwhile, is just the cerebral cortex of what makes up, RoboCop's brain.
That's right. They said in the documentary that Blade Runner was sort of an inspiration for it.
Seeing in red, yeah. And I like how he sees more in green, and that's just for his targeting. And you can suspend belief because it's, it's on the visor.
Oh, you mean from the look that
yeah. Because I've seen scientists, God forbid, talk about Blade Runner and Terminator, and they're like, technically he wouldn't see in red if the lasers are emitting from his robot eyes. And you're like, oh, you're ruining movies for me, guys.
Well, they kind of established, I mean, because you see his face, he doesn't have robot eyes,
right? With him, this is like, okay, yeah, that's his.
And
visor.
even the TV series mentions that some of those effects come from the helmet that he's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do have fun every once in a while when I'm in Dallas, seeing parts that I can tell were used for the movie to stand in for, Detroit. And I did know a guy who was a real dick behind the scenes, who was doing extras coordination, but he was mainly in charge of transportation. And he claimed, I could never find him on IMDb, but he always claimed he was the motorcycle or driving double for RoboCop in all 3 movies. And I'm like, interesting. Okay.
I did read in here somewhere where it's talking about, like, if the new movie, if they're making another movie, they're talking about going back to, like, they're going to ignore the last 3 movies.
Right.
And just like make it right directly after the first movie. And he's going to be wearing the same outfit. But in this day and age, that's kind of clunky for this day and age, I would think.
Well, and the fact that they wanted Schwarzenegger off the bat and he couldn't even fit in the suit.
Yes.
And then Verhoeven was like, I'll work with you another time. Just give me 3 years. And I think
I
this
do not want to put on the Mr. Freeze suit again. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. Dead or alive, you're coming with me in my fist. I'm gonna strike for your spine. Yeah. You'll love this. Originally, they were gonna a while back do a comic book crossover with Robocop and the Predator. Can you imagine Robo being targeted
I
by
know,
that?
like they did the comic book crossover with Robocop and Terminator, but and I know like with Predator and Alien, they were both owned by the same company. I don't know that Terminator and or Robocop, were they part of the same company? I can't.
Well, Skynet become Omnicorp gets taken.
Well, I'm talking about the company that produces the movies.
MGM produced the first one and Robocop movies, while the rest are a Fox division. But Terminator did cross over with AVP in the comics, and James Cameron actually wanted to. While Ridley Scott indicated that the Blade Runner company was part of the Weyland Yutani Alien company, James Cameron in his original draft for Aliens actually implied that Skynet was one of the vendors for Weyland Yutani. So I think it's one of those, it was somewhat connected, but loosely kind of became reconnected, I guess, just because it's not too far a stretch. It's not.
The comic, I like the comic, and Aliens versus Predator in the movies really didn't do great. They
didn't do it justice, but they were wrestling movies for the Godzilla crowd.
If it handled right, Robocop Terminator movie would be probably fantastic if they did it right.
Hell, with these awesome fan films that I've seen recently, like I saw one where the alien was taking on some Germans during World War I in the trenches, and I saw another one where the Predator was going after some Arthurian knights during the Crusades. I was like, see, that would be awesome. Like if I'm sure you guys remember the one that started it all, Batman Dead End.
Yes.
Then they later on did, Predator versus Batman, or
I remember an Alien versus Superman one.
Yeah, and even Judge Dredd got in on that. And I promise we'll do another funny versus match comic book chat another time. But like, this is like, and it's kind of funny how in many ways Judge Dredd is kind of a more radical RoboCop with the social commentary of the Punisher. And so in many ways, yes, they need to get some comic book guys who are also good script writers. Is J. Michael Straczynski available? It's just.
Well, you mentioned, I don't know about Frank Miller these days, but
yeah, unfortunately, he's kind of.
But Frank Miller, I mean, you said he was also writing the third one, but he probably didn't have as much of his stuff in the third one.
No,
as you
he really
didn't.
Liked. He kind of just had the backbones of the corporation, and the rest was just, let's rewrite this, whatever the budget affords, Yeah,
because I really dug the ultra violence in the second one. For the RoboCop movie,
it was fine. My issue with RoboCop 2, despite it being perfectly watchable, is just kind of, and Robocane being an awesome villain, and now that's Tom Noonan, the Tooth Fairy guy from
right.
Manhunter, who's also one of the guys in other Michael Mann movies. He's even guest stars on the Terminator show as a resistance fighter, but I always get freaked out by him because he just has that polarizing look from seeing RoboCop 2 growing up. But I think my only issue with that movie is it's just the supporting cast just looks very bored. Like all the old man and the other crooked suits, and you're like, come on, guys, you don't have much to say. Look intense.
They didn't have a Miguel Ferrer in that one.
Yeah, but they brought back the other guys who were
that one black guy. I can't think of his name. He showed up.
Yeah, because he was so energetic and had a shit-eating grin and was a kiss ass in the first one, and in part 2, he's just like, "What do you want to do, boss?" I'm like, do you not have anything to give to him? And the old man also, like, again, like, he's coming up with all these ideas. It's like, why doesn't anyone have the sanity to just say, hey, can we fire this guy? This old geezer has terrible ideas. He's the Elon Musk these days.
Well, in Prime Directive, he was replaced by a woman.
Yeah, I had fun with that. Well, that's what I liked about it, especially on this rewatch, paying less like there's some decent action once you get past some of the overdone Matrix slow motion that every movie and show was doing at that time. But like, yeah, I had fun seeing all the cutthroats. They still kept playing us for fools. They're like, wait, I thought he was on their side. Oh, nope, he's using Robo until he finds time to, stab him in the back or betray him. But I do like, though, how there was one line when they're in the water and someone like lets out a line saying, "I'm surprised you weren't fried" or something, but it still doesn't explain why they weren't fried by it being electrocuted in water. You're like, yeah. And don't you love how no one ever shoots Robo in the jaw with the amount of machine guns firing?
Yeah, well,
they explore it in the comics. I think there is one where his like side cheek explodes and he has to have it heal. Wouldn't it be funny if they incorporated nanobot technology into him?
Yeah.
Let's hope they don't do anything like they did in Deadshot, or what? Not Deadshot.
Bloodshot.
Bloodshot. Yeah.
Vin Diesel. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that over the top.
That was horrible, I thought.
I think Vin Diesel actually at one point was rumored to be Robocop. I'm like, oh, please no. I'm Robocop. I sound like a diesel engine. Vroom, vroom.
I don't think
family.
Family. This is for family. Yeah.
I don't think The Rock or Vin Diesel should be in any comic book related movies for sure.
That is for sure.
And unfortunately, one already has been. Well, no, they both.
I do think Jason Statham would be an okay Boomerang, maybe on Suicide Squad, or he could be some other kind of less explored property. I'd be cool with him being another fantasy warrior guy. In fact, having some good news, I did like some of the other shows on the Paramount Plus app. Like Apple, they launched it way too soon, so no one saw any of their stuff, so they canceled all of it. But I actually really dug Rabbit Hole as a fun spy thriller. It's kind of like Person of Interest in a way, and Peter Weller and Lance Henriksen got to play some really awesome villains once you get to the end of the tunnel on that show. I'm like, and so I think if they had to do an anime of RoboCop with Weller returning, I think that might even work better, because I mean, there's already a Lord of the Rings anime out, and it's just like,
well, the new stuff they're talking about since Amazon Prime took over
MGM, yeah. There you go.
They really pushed RoboCop is one of the ones they're trying to push.
They love adapting detective and hard-boiled spy thrillers, as well as, I mean, they've already adapted one of William Gibson's near impossible, books, The Peripheral, so that they're coming out with the Blade Runner TV show 2099, and it's like, yeah, they totally speak that language. They should totally jump on that and say, let's make it happen, guys.
Yeah, they're trying to do the RoboCop and the TV series almost concurrent, it looks like, with each other.
That's what I'm hearing too. If they even want to do books for RoboCops, like ebooks, I think those would be fun. But I'm just glad that there's a better video game of it out there, because I remember there was this violent like GameCube video game that came out that everybody hated. It was like in 2004. It was like ranked as like one of the worst video games of the year, because even though it had, people's heads exploding when you showed them, it was just very glitchy and had terrible voice acting.
Yeah, the only RoboCop game I remember playing was one that was an arcade game. Came out shortly
right.
after.
Yeah.
And it was a side scroller, if I remember right.
Yeah, all of them were.
Yeah.
They did all free movies, which I think is pretty cool, even though you could argue, again, corporate America gamble. But like, then they did one with the RoboCop and Terminator. So I'm like, that's cool. It went from comic to video game, and it was rated the most violent video game ever, especially if you got the home console versions of any of those arcades. You would see blood splats. And
one of those ones where you can turn it on or off, probably.
I don't think you could turn it off like Mortal Kombat or Halo, but it's pretty close. Like, still, like, I would hardly call those as offensive as, say, I don't know, a zombie game where you're tearing people's eyes out. It's like, or a God of War where there's gore and tits in every other scene. It's like, I don't know, man. But see, that's the other funny thing too. Like, when you see people who don't like them, you can tell it's like, oh my word, just the simplest bloodshed like gets under your skin, and you're like, dude, it's not even that kind of movie. Like, it's shocking, but in a good way. Like, it's not an exploitation movie per se,
Yeah.
If you want to say it's a big budget B movie that's making fun of B movie tropes, maybe that might be a good terminology. But like,
yes, when the guy in RoboCop's getting shot up by the Ed 209, like crazy, it's just an allegory towards politics and business.
even on TV, that was always hard to modify. Like it was just one of those you're like, even if I even saw, I was it always left me cold. I'm like, what just happened? The movie's just beginning. What just happened? It was kind of like Chucky and all those other movies that ironically make fun of, again, corporations. And you're like, man, everything I need to know about the ethics in this movie. And I think that might have, yeah, I think this actually was the first thing I saw. No, I take it back. I think I saw Ronnie Cox in Total Recall first, and
Oh yeah,
and then Beverly Hills Cop, and then RoboCop, then Stargate, and the rest is history. But yeah, I mean, and then Deliverance, of course. But it's just interesting how he is one of those guys who you're just like, he can play so many different personas, and you never know where he's going to land.
and don't forget Captain Jellicoe from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, is like he's not a bad guy, but he's still the opposing force who you love to hate. So
He's the guy that makes everybody else happy that Picard's the captain of the ship.
Right. I think that's just the thing. RoboCop's vision just speaks higher than most people, and even people who are obsessed with it just from nostalgia, they fortunately, like any good high school comedy or adventure flick, they've seen it enough times, they've been able to look at the other small details they didn't see the first 20 times. And so I think that's why it is also an ultimate party movie now. And
well, it definitely has rewatch
absolutely
rewatchability.
And I have the Arrow Blu-ray, and I'm not kidding, guys. Like they, much like the Scarface Blu-rays, they allow you to turn on the kill count and F-bomb counter, as well as jump to the TV edits for a laugh, so kudos to, and it's so well remastered, for both 4K and, regular 1080, it works on both players. And it's just one of those, they were able to just, obviously, if you're a big nitpicker, nothing will make you happy, but they did a damn good job trying to, mix the actual film with the, X-rated cut, seamlessly. It's just, they used what they had, and it was clearly a labor of love, given what special features they had. And it definitely made me fall in love with Bill Tippett. Obviously, Star Wars and Jurassic Park was first, but
oh, that's right, he did the stop motion for that, didn't he?
Yeah. All the Edit 209 animation, and when Robo's jumping on Robocane in part 2, that's clearly a doll.
I did kind of have a problem with Robocane's little like TV monitor face.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah.
That's another one where you're like, it's cinematic, but the schematics of why it would actually exist, don't think about it too hard. It'll just drive you crazy. And but yeah, just so when I saw, okay, so he went on to do this, then RoboCop and Jurassic Park are both big success. So then Verhoeven has him do the animatronics for Starship Troopers, and then it's all. But he's got some health issue. Let me see. Mental stability. Okay. Well, I do recommend the Creating Light and Magic documentary that's on Disney Plus that talks about ILM, because he does get a good interview, and it really did take Spielberg sitting him, Stan Winston, and Dennis Muren at ILM all down, and that was the compromise. It's like, okay, Winston will create the puppets, you'll create the animatronics from afar, and Murin will do the all CGI shots. It's the best of all three worlds. And I totally saw, but see, it was so funny because I was watching it with other family members, and they all had a similar deal where they're like, well, this looks good or that looks good. And it's like, well, that's the thing. We're getting all, I love this documentary because we're getting all viewpoints. All three of these kinds of effects can be good if you use them well. Just was glad, because at first I'm like, if they just repeat the same, 2004 Star Wars edition stuff that I've seen before, I'm out. And it's like, they fortunately went deeper and they explored the stuff that the ugly side of it that is often not talked about enough. The guy who did the effects in Star Wars, it's basically George Lucas is like, you did a good job, but you still came in just barely on time. But he had the last laugh because then he does the effects for the original Galactica. And I always had trouble pronouncing his surname, but Backstrop or whatever. But yeah, it's just like all these guys have survived, and Tippett has done his share of directing on occasion. And for better or worse. And they all started just, like every filmmaker, watching classic black and white movies, 50s B pictures, much like Joe Dante, and then Ray Harryhausen. I'm just glad that they both made it their signature style, but also kept the spirit of earlier movies alive in modern day films. The other problem I have is that, and this is with everything else, is like Robocop doesn't have to be a great fighter. I mean, all you need to see is his WWE appearance, and you know that much about him. Come on now.
It was WCW.
WCW, that's what it was. He just comes in and just like tears the cage off the match, and you're like, what's going on? Anyone who hasn't seen it, YouTube it, you'll be like, it's just like when Jason Voorhees was on Arsenio Hall. You're like, man, did they have just some weird live TV moments in the 90s?
Oh, I'll take you a step further. You know who else appeared in a WCW show, and actually, I think he was also in a pay-per-view. Chucky.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Now you guys you're talking about areas I have no clue what you're talking about.
They are all YouTubeable moments. I mean, but that was Sam Jackson appeared as Shaft in 2000. Yeah, it's just, but I loved that. I loved how it was, you're doing WCW or WWE, you get to do a staged fight in character as the character you're promoting. So it was just so meta before meta was really a thing.
Now they'd have to do it with John Wick.
Yeah, I would watch it. He would probably do it, even though he probably isn't a big wrestling fan, but I'm sure he would do it.
Oh, he pull out his gun.
Right. There you go. And then the wrestlers disarm him, and then it's all, crazy from there. If they could get Holly Berry and a German Shepherd to come in as well, I would watch it. I would pay for that whole pay-per-view thing. Oh. I would be for it if someone wanted to come in as like a famous spy or other vigilante. Just making a comeback, bitch. And just come on in, and whoever is the next Starfleet captain, have them come here for a day and film a funny fight scene. They're trying to grab their phaser. No!
One of the wrestlers dressed up as a Gorn.
Yes, and they play the arena music from the spot. Hanson Mount would probably do it. And has got so many wrestling circuits. Oh man. Good ideas all. Even the dumbest person, I think, has just grown a brain from just watching Robocop just so many times, because there's just, you feel everything that's in the movie. Every bullet, every Foley, every beautifully constructed building that houses all this villainy. You feel like you're in this troubled, fictional version of the city.
I just remember seeing it in the theater, being blown away when I saw it, by the violence of it and the satirical nature of it,
Absolutely. Yeah. You were laughing one minute, then you were almost crying, when Robo's, barely about to die. And it's just like, Jesus, this is a roller coaster of emotions. So,
they didn't touch on the baby food aspect in the 2014.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I wonder if it's a deleted scene, but I think that's the other thing too. Like, I don't know if there's one thing I will critique. I understand that Verhoeven, the only religious imagery he really puts in is that Robocop is basically Jesus Christ, being resurrected. I think I see kind of a metaphor for that, but I don't think it goes down quite as he portrays. But
it's kind of hard to see it. I mean, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, because I would mention that and people are like, what? And so I think the bigger picture, but still when watching it this many times, not quite. So
yeah,
it's one of those where you're just like, it was a nice try, but I don't just say it's an over-the-top death scene and it's making
Jesus Christ was a cyborg.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus, that's a big robot. And I like, though, too, how, again, just the characters aren't dumb. Like, they hate how this corporation is literally taking over their police unit, to where they they touch on it briefly in the sequel, so that's why I give some of them a pass, even though I don't think they're 100%. Because at least I'll give any movie praise or not a thumbs up, but like a pat on the back for at least you had something that I could talk about. As we've been doing for an hour. It's like, did the filmmakers capitalize on those ideas? I wouldn't say so, other than the first one, but that's just it. The first one got all the best ideas out.
Well, the rest of them really kind of focused on the OCP and all their, their infighting and backstabbing, and they have so many bad ideas. You wonder why they're even still in business.
And that's just it. I think they took some of it too seriously when they should have. They got the comic book villainy aspect down, but they didn't, like you say, you want to see a commercial at least playing in the background, like with someone who's won an insurance, damage report against OCP, like your robot accidentally beat up my dog, or almost killed my kid. Just that would be a great Funny or Die skit,
What, Robocop in a lawyer's office?
Right. Is like, and it'd be so funny. Like, he finds out one of the lawyers is armed, and he's like, "You're dead, creep."
or he has to go in front of a judge, and he has to wear a tie, but that's all he's wearing is a tie because he can't put a suit over him.
And there you go. The judge is like, "Robo, will you please remove your visor?" "Yes, sir. But if you want to be safe, because I know that other lawyer there is going to play dirty in your court and probably try to kill you, you might want to have me keep my targeting, visor on." and sure enough, last minute he puts it on anyway. "Robo, you're in contempt." "Judge, I saved your life." Then he finds out the judge is dirty. "You're coming with me, creep."
"I work for OCP."
"I work for OCP." "And you're still going to jail." Because that's the thing too, is say what you want about the thugs in the second and third movie. Like the first movie, it never got repetitive. Every arrest scene was so wacky, like when he takes down, Bodeker's, warehouse, it's so over the top and cool, and you're tracking with him, so you feel like you're in this chaotic place. Like, what is happening? But from everywhere, where he shoots the robber in the dick who's holding the woman hostage too,
and he had to shoot between the woman's legs.
Yeah, and it's a shame that Punk wasn't played by Steven Seagal. That would have been great. But yeah, I mean, when you're from the nightclub arrest, everything, and he always. The one-liners, again, they were just so telling of Murphy regaining his persona instead of just, if it were anyone else, they would have just wanted a stupid, one-liner that didn't quite land, And all the lines land. I think that's why people quote it. Like every John Hughes movie, even Caddyshack and Die Hard, it's just, you've seen it so many times. You're about to say what the character's about to say before they say it. It's just that quotable. And in a good way, it's just, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of bad movies we quote.
I think a lot of that also comes down to when it came out, and that's in the mid to late '80s when things were still kind of cynical of it. So they're kind of playing up on the excess of the '80s.
Yeah.
In the movie,
Reagan era, drugs are bad. Okay.
Tom, do you remember anything that satirical or that kind of satirical? Well, I guess maybe, and it's another Peter Weller, Buckaroo Banzai's kind of over the top.
Yes.
Don't you love how they've continued that in comics?
Oh, yes.
They've actually made better sense of the movie if you read the comic. Oh.
Yeah, I'd also have to throw in something going back to the TV series. Did you know they put out a soundtrack for it?
No.
Yep.
The 90s TV show. Wow.
Yep. And they had
for what? For
the 90s show that you bought.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. There's a
decent theme. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
No, there's even a better song that plays. I think it either plays at the end or I think something played at the beginning. But I remember it more at the end. It's called "Future to This Life." It's a duet.
Oh, wow.
Joe Walsh.
Oh, that was by
Lita
Joe
Ford.
Walsh. Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and I never thought the two of them, their vocal stylings would not work well, but in this particular song, it does.
Every TV show had to have a rock score. Nice. Did you ever hear when they were making the miniseries Prime Directive? MGM wouldn't give them the rights to any footage from the movie, but fortunately, their workaround, because Fireworks was on good terms with the guys who produced the 90s show, which was also in Canada. They were like, okay, we'll use that archive footage that you use in the theme song that uses footage from the movie. That's our workaround. So I think, but see, that's a good mind. So many people love to get told no, and then the creativity,
they can figure out how to do it anyway.
Yeah, the creativity dies there. It's like, that is some Trey Parker type shit. It's like, see, you got told no, and then you got to work around, and you had the last laugh. And it's like, ask the right person. Keep asking. Ask it differently. You will get eventually someone who is not a curmudgeon, who is not a piece of work, who has all this stuff you can use for free. And
I don't know why I was just reminded of the Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man.
Well, wasn't Matt Frewer? Didn't he guess?
No, that was the second one. That was the second one. The first one was somebody else. It was Pierce Brosnan and
Jeff Fahey. Yeah.
Jeff Fahey. Yeah.
Jeff Fahey would make a cool Robocop.
Stephen King kept trying to get his name taken off of it.
Right. Much like with Running Man.
and they wouldn't take his name off, and then went to court. The court says you got to take his name off of it, and they said okay, but then they didn't take his name off of it. So it went. I don't know. Eventually, they might have. I don't remember, but I know that.
No, I don't think they did. I think you're right. I think the home video versions still have it on there. It was just one of those. I don't know. They must have just said, "Fuck it, we'll spite him because he's made such an ordeal out of this. He's killing our chances of making our money back." Because he's bullet. And that I'm glad you bring those up, because I'm seeing it so much now where people will badmouth a movie that's just as it's coming out. I'm like, whatever happened to the wait 10 years before, talking smack, because acting's your brand. And even if you're not a pain to work with behind the scenes, like, I wouldn't want to work with you if I know you're going to be very opinionated and probably kill my marketing campaign as the movie's coming out. I mean, if you're disappointed with it, I'll accept it. But it's just like, dudes, we all.
You mean, are you talking about like actors that do the movies?
Yeah, though, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some movies where you're like, yeah, sorry, nothing personal, but there's just no way that's going to be good. But then there's other times where you're like, where everyone's attacking trailers now, it's like, oh, come on, guys. It's not even out yet. Trailer's not the movie. But I think my issue is just mainly just, it really kills everyone's spirits, and it does kill some of your audience if you belittled it, because people like to be sheep. They like to just say, oh, someone just badmouthed their movie, I guess I'm not seeing it.
Oh, I never listen to anything anyway. I even if I go in thinking myself,
that's because you're not a sheep. But I'm just saying, I still will see that. I saw so many people doing that with so many other movies. Now, if you don't have any interest, that's cool. But I'm like, I'll see so many people are just like, well, my favorite YouTuber hated it. I'm like, okay.
Well, me, even if it's a bad movie, at least maybe I'll find something entertaining about it.
Or at least do the HBO route where I didn't pay a single dime, but I wasted 40 minutes on it at least before giving up and saying, glad I didn't see it in the theater.
Well, there's been some movies where I've actually paid for them, and then I'm like, oh man, I wish I hadn't paid for them. And then other times where I'm like, I haven't paid for them to watch the movie, but I'll see it on like Peacock or one of the streaming services, and I'll be like, oh, I'm glad I didn't pay for that.
I mean, I've come around to all the Star Trek shows, and growing up, I kind of had a love-hate relationship with both Voyager and Enterprise, and I've done that with some of these shows, and as well. And I mean, I'm glad I resaw Prime Directives, because while I recalled the effects being good, I couldn't recall if the story was any decent. And it was messy, but overall decent.
I'm trying to remember Prime Directives. I'm trying to remember where it originally aired on
Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel. Okay, because I watched it this time around, and I'm seeing a little bit of nudity in there.
So I think what they have on YouTube are the uncut Lionsgate thing, because there's the new.
I watched this on Tubi.
Right. So when Lionsgate released it, because it was like an Alliance Atlantis co-production, when they released them on DVD, they had those naked pictures that he hides under, and you're like, and so it was so funny. I would always see that as the rating. I'm like, nudity.
Well, there's a scene. There's like a really, really brief scene of some dancers in cages, and they're topless.
Yeah, okay. I just recalled he was also underneath like some other cloth that had like a naked woman picture, which was like, why do you even add that if you're going to have to change it when it airs? But
they probably just blur it or something.
And that's the other thing too. It's intense, but not to the point of R-rated. But I get it. It's still gritty enough. But it's one of those. It's decently directed. You just have to. It's got a few too many cooks on the editing room, but it's not to the point where you're like, this is giving me a headache. It's too many tones.
Well, they definitely had like 3 or 4 different plot lines going along, kind of converged in the end.
I don't know how much of it was too much for them to barely contain, or if it was just.
And one of the guys that plays a villain in that, isn't he like Forever Knight?
Yeah, Geraint Wine Davies, and he's in the second Cube movie, and the Resistance fighter gal who kills him.
She's in
from Suits in 24. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of her as the mom in. Oh, you said 24? Never mind.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yep.
She's now a big director, and she's been directing a lot of Canadian shot TV, including the new Lost in Space and Star Trek and SVU. That's what I love so much about Peter Weller too. It's just anytime he's at a convention, people want to talk about everything he's done, from, hey, you voiced Batman in one of the recent movies, to
the Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, yeah.
Based on the Frank Miller thing,
right.
Yeah. And he's a good director. He really is a legit good director. You look at his episodes he's done of shows that in some cases have a recurring role on, and Salem, Last Ship, Sons of Anarchy, Homicide, and you're like, he's definitely like many of these other guys. He makes sure the performance is right, and he works with the crew to stage it well and get it done on time, and I've never heard any moment where people were like, he won't take my direction, or he's a prick to me at a convention. He's just a people person.
Well, hearing him talk on that Robodoc, he kind of treats acting like music in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and who else can you think went back to college to become a history professor and then host a History Channel show? It was like, when I saw him doing that, I'm like, man. And he loved working with Manny Cotto, so then when Manny, I can't remember if he was on Dexter or not. I think he was, but when he did the villain arc on both Star Trek Enterprise and 24, Manny Cotto then was like, hey, let me give you your own sci-fi space opera, Odyssey 5. And again, for an actor who has gone between A and B list stuff, he's still, again, he, like many of these other character actors we've talked about, they treat it all as Shakespeare and go with the flow. Trust me, anyone else, he could have probably easily been an asshole and say, ask me anything but about Robocop.
In Star Trek, he played a villain in both his in Enterprise and even in the
second newer movie. One of the best parts of the Like It or Hate It movie. But he just loves doing all these different traders and businessmen and smug spies and diamond heist thieves. I've lost track of how many indie movies I would see that he was in that would premiere on HBO. I'm like, man, he's a smooth actor too.
Yeah. The last thing I saw him in was Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. And I
don't know.
I forgot he was the original sheriff who later loses his mind on Longmire, and same deal. He was on there because he was also directing a bunch of the episodes. So again, he's getting double the money on these things. He's getting his bang for his buck, and then he's doing conventions, and then doing other speaking events. And he's a nice person. I can't. He'll be caught dead, kicking a homeless person. He's not that kind of guy. Like so many other people who we've seen, and they've broken our hearts. You're like, he treated that person like trash after a show. Man, you suck.
What was that story in the Robodoc where one guy was saying he was talking about giving him a cookie or something like that?
Oh,
and Peter Weller's denying it, but it was a story about giving him a cookie, and they said it in a certain way. I can't remember how it was.
It wasn't like these other makeup roles where you can't do much, but yeah, he have to hold his bladder a lot of the time.
That I don't recall.
So.
Because I know when I went to Las Colinas Studios and they had an endless array of movie trivia, and keep in mind, guys, this is 2004 to 07 era, and they've used this place to shoot episodes of everything from Walker, Texas Ranger to other campy stuff in Dallas. And I would always hear what other documentaries covered on, but I heard that first in a pre-internet age where it's like he was constant. Every once in a while, he would overheat in the suit and pass out because it was just such a long shoot.
Oh, yeah,
because he was a trooper.
Yeah, they'd have to get him in and out of that suit, and it would take a long time, I'm sure. So
it would, yeah, because you got to match every scene, and you're like,
or turn him upside down like Sam Raimi's brother in Evil Dead when he's in that grandma or that mother costume or whatever.
Oh my word! Yeah,
and all that sweat pours out.
Oh man.
So yeah, I probably wouldn't have wanted to smell that suit after he'd been in it all day.
Oh hell no! Was Lysol wipes around back then? They should have used it.
Yeah, I can imagine even like acting on set. I'm sure there were some smells that probably were not very pleasant, but they had to act through it.
Absolutely, and Nancy Allen, I know she was pissed when they killed her off in part 3. She's like, really? That's the only thing you got for me?
Well, I mean, and it's funny because her character, I can't remember her character name, but like the TV series, they had a female cop, which was the cop who, the lady cop in that TV series was in Dr. Mordred.
Oh,
yeah.
So there you go. There's some full moon
what's her
crossover
name?
here.
Yvette Napar or something, I think is her name.
There you go.
But her character was different. It wasn't the same character that Nancy Allen played in the movie.
Well, and what's his name? I can never pronounce his name. He's the garbage guy in the original Terminator, coincidentally, but he's done a lot of American and Canadian movies. He's playing the desk sergeant in the TV show, and you're like, he looks nothing like Jesse. What's his name? The
guy
from Robocops. You're like, he's black. That's it. He doesn't look at all. He's got a fro.
And his cop character, he adopts the little girl Gadget and is like hangs around the police station.
Yeah, not necessarily good parenting.
Yeah, no.
It works as a comic book show, but again, that's where I think the show could have been better. I think they didn't get all the satire. They're like, or maybe they did, but the studio didn't want any of it. So that's also what I wonder is like, who's.
I think they just kind of let the they had the TV segments like the movies, and they even throw in a cartoon character in the TV series called Captain Capitalism.
Yeah,
I think that's what they called him.
No, I think you're right.
But they use that to carry the satire.
Yeah, but it's a shame that's in the background, because like you're saying, it's still an imperfect show. It's a watchable show, but you wish they could have re-edited it a bit better, instead of making it only escapism.
Well, like those early Canadian shows, yeah, there was a certain cheapness look to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of where the 90s were a real vacuum, because This is like half the time you'll look at these low budget movies and you're like, this could be direct to video, or it could be made for TV, or it could be at a film festival, I guess. And then some of them you're like, yeah, it's not ready to be theatrical. That's for sure.
Well, I'd be watching the TV shows going without knowing too much. Like I'd see it on TV. I go, oh, that's filmed in Canada. I could tell.
I would do that. Well, what drove me crazy was always slow motion in movies. You're just like, because it was at such a different camera speed. And when they remastered half these shows, it only made them look even cheaper. You're like, the slow motion's not supposed to be that goofy looking. But because we're seeing every frame now, it can't be helped.
Well, no, I would love to see RoboCop again in whatever reiteration they do it, but hopefully better than like 3 for sure.
Bring his jetpack.
Like I said, 14, the 2014 one, it grew on me. I mean, I didn't like it the first time I saw it, but I went in with the expectations of what I remember.
I've seen other people try to do their movie riffs of RoboCop, and it's always one of those, nah, I'm good, dude. There's already commentary in the movie. I don't need you to riff RoboCop.
Well, they riffed that first episode.
I know that was fine. But the original, even if you don't like it, which don't talk to me, but well, and I think it's just shows a lot when, again, we've talked endlessly about the costume design, the good versus evil, the city being a character, the likability of the character. Imagine how hard it would be if you had Murphy being an asshole the whole time, or if it was only a dark comedy. It might be harder to market.
I remember watching an episode of Red Dwarf when I was doing that other episode.
Yeah, that's right. You
podcast.
mentioned there was a total RoboCop inspired episode.
There's a scene where Dave Lister, like, I think it's a polymorph episode. I'm not sure which one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually wearing a RoboCop outfit. It looks like one of his RoboCop suits that got all damaged and stuff.
Well, and what was so intimidating about RoboCop is when he unleashes that data thing, it looks like he's flipping him the bird first. Oh, it's like, no.
Yeah, RoboCop even made its. I was gonna say RoboCop even made its way into Red Dwarf.
Yep, that's how good it is, and it's got a pretty big UK audience. I think that's the beauty of it. But it's a big audience anywhere. Oh, that's right. Takashi Miike did do a RoboCop ripoff back when he's done a lot of samurai movies and other stuff, and I forget the name of it, but I'm glad you brought up ripoffs.
I'm surprised Asylum hasn't
they
touched
did.
on it.
They
did?
Yep.
Okay.
It came out with Michael J. White. It was like,
what was it called?
Looking it up. It was really bad. Oh my god. But great if you're an Asylum guy. Android Cop. Oh,
Android Cop.
oh, it was so cheap. But
well, I mean, if he's part human and part machine, that's cyborg, not android.
I know. Trust me, I do. But I trust me, I've had to do that before too. I've had to explain to people it's a cyborg.
Of course, they do call him Robot Cop or RoboCop. So
Yeah. No one knows the difference. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Yeah.
Oh man. What do you guys got coming up soon?
Well, me, nothing. Just doing my usual DeviantArt, Facebook uploads
You might do RoboCop comics soon. Yeah.
I don't have any on digital, so it's gonna hard. I'd have to scan it in, huh?
It's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
Trust me, I got to catch up on some because I would see parts of the Dark Horse stuff, but I definitely want to see the first run Marvel stuff that came out in '88.
There was now I have my magazines are up on the shelf over here, but I think there was one RoboCop magazine that was an adaptation of the movie,
right?
That I have up here, and then just like I said, just the RoboCop Terminator crossover
and
that I have.
What snippets I've seen of the RoboCop 2 one, you can tell that that's as close as you're going to get to some of the stuff that was left on the cutting room floor, but was in the script, because that was the beauty of, I mean, I like comic book adaptations of a movie even more because you could tell they were working so closely to said script, you know. They knew what everyone was going to look like, but they still had extended scenes that were cut for time or never actually shot, but would be in there. It's just always interesting. In fact, even some of the Indiana Jones and even the Starship Troopers one by Dark Horse, those are some fun ones. Just seeing just extended, just like stuff involving henchmen and it was Troopers. It was interesting seeing one of the battle aftermaths. There's just extended dialogue showing that they know this is a bad idea, that they're predicament they're going to get themselves into, and you're just like, see, this is the beauty of a visual novelization, if you will, because and especially in a pre-digital age, this is what I had.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small-town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up